Look at me, I need you to understand that you aren't just watching a video, you are witnessing the funeral of your excuses. You came here today because you were tired of being busy and still broke, and now you have the blueprint. You know the truth now, busyness is just a lazy way of avoiding the work that requires courage. You know that you've been hiding in the minors. You know you've been leaking your energy like a broken pipe. And you know you've been using your search as a shield to keep you from the battlefield. Stop lying to yourself. You don't need another video after this one. You don't need another book. You don't need another sign from the universe. The sign is the frustration in your gut. The sign is the empty bank account. The sign is the family that is still waiting for you to become the person you said you were going to be. You want the result, then you have to embrace the repetition of the hard stuff. You want the crown, then you have to stop running from the kill. You owe it to you to stop being a spectator of your own life. You owe it to you. You owe it to you. Here's your move. I want you to pick one thing, not 5, not 10. One major task that you have been avoiding because it scares you. I want you to commit to a bunker hour tomorrow morning. And I want you to attack that task with everything you've got. No phone, no tabs, no quick questions. Just you and your destiny. You've been a student of success for too long. It's time to become a practitioner of results. You are no longer the person who tries. You are the person who produces. You are no longer the busy person. You are the impactful person. Go out there and take what belongs to you, not because you're working hard, but because you're finally working on what matters. Your future self is watching you right now to see if you're going to stay the same or if you're going to evolve. Make them proud. Now get out of here and go do the work. Look at me and listen to what I'm telling you, because you've been lying to yourself for so long that you start to believe your own garbage. You wake up at 5 a.m. You're the first one in the office. You're the last one to leave. You're sweating. You're grinding. You're putting in the work. And yet your life looks exactly the same as it did 365 days ago. You're exhausted. You're burnt out. You're frustrated. And you're looking at your bank account, wondering where the harvest is, because you've been sowing seeds of busyness all day long, but you're still broke. You think you know why you're stuck. You think it's the economy. You think it's your boss. You think you just need more time, but you don't, not yet. You have no idea that the very thing you're using to pride yourself on is the very thing that's keeping you a slave to the struggle. You want the crown, but you're allergic to the kill. You want the prize, but you're terrified of the priority. Stop confusing movement with progress. A rocking chair moves all day long. It's going back and forth. It's putting in effort. It's swinging with intensity. But when the sun goes down, that chair is in the exact same spot. It started. You're that chair. You're moving, but you ain't going nowhere. You're active, but you ain't achieving. You're busy, but you're broke. I remember being in a hotel room in Detroit, 3 o'clock in the morning, and the blue light of my laptop was the only thing keeping me awake as I stared at a spreadsheet of 100 different tasks I thought I had to do to grow my business. I was answering emails from people who weren't paying me. I was tweaking the color of a logo that nobody was looking at. I was organizing my digital files like they were the crown jewels. And I felt like a beast because I was working. My eyes were bloodshot, my back was aching, and I felt the weight of the world on my shoulders. But when I stepped back and looked at the reality of my situation, I hadn't made a single phone call that resulted in a contract. I hadn't reached out to a single person who could actually change my life. I was hiding in the busy work because I was scared of the real work. I was hiding in the noise because I was terrified of the silence of a no. I was doing everything except the one thing that mattered. I was playing house while the world was waiting for me to build a skyscraper. You know exactly what that feels like. You know that feeling when you lay your head on the pillow and you are tired. But deep down in your soul, you know you didn't do a thing today to get closer to your dream. You didn't move the needle. You just moved the dust around. Stop lying to yourself. You are the reason your dream is delayed. You are the reason your family is still waiting for the life you promised them. You're choosing the comfort of feeling busy over the discomfort of being productive. Let's be real. The reason you're still broke isn't because you aren't working. It's because you're a coward. When it comes to the high stakes tasks, you would rather check off 50 tiny, insignificant boxes on a to-do list than face the one giant task that requires your focus, your courage, and your genius. You're addicted to the dopamine hit of the check mark. You love the feeling of being slammed. You love telling people, oh, I'm so busy, I don't have time for anything, because it makes you feel important. But importance doesn't pay the rent. Being slammed doesn't create a legacy. You're hiding from the phone calls. You're hiding from the sales. You're hiding from the difficult conversations. And you're hiding from the deep work that actually generates revenue, because your brain has tricked you into thinking that busy equals better. It doesn't. Busy is the enemy of great. Busy is the anesthetic you use to numb the pain of your own mediocrity. There is a psychological trap called active procrastination, and you are the poster child for it. Your brain is wired for survival, not for success. So it chooses the path of least resistance every single time you don't take control. When you face a task that is difficult, a task that has the potential to make you rich, but carries the risk of rejection or failure, your brain starts screaming, danger, danger. And it pushes you towards something safe, like cleaning your inbox or researching. For the 10th hour this week, you feel like you are working, so the guilt goes away, but the results never come. You're stuck in a loop of safe work while your destiny is waiting in the scary work. You're trading your future for a sense of temporary relief. You're sacrificing your potential on the altar of the mundane. You want the result, but you run from the repetition of the hard stuff. You want the mountaintop, but you're playing in the dirt at the base of the hill because the climb looks too steep. You owe it to you to stop this. You owe it to you. You owe it to you. Listen to me. I'm giving you a tool right now that's going to break the back of this cycle. If you're man or woman enough to use it, it's the 80-20 kill switch. Tomorrow morning, before you even think about touching that phone, before you let the world's emergencies dictate your energy, you're going to write down 10 things you think you need to do. Then, I want you to take a red pen, and I want you to ruthlessly cross out 8 of them. I don't care if they need to be done. I don't care if they're important to someone else. You cross them out. You are now left with 2 items. The 2 items that actually have the power to change your financial reality. And here's the rule. You are forbidden from touching those other 8 tasks until those top 2 are dead and buried. You stay in the trenches with those 2 high-value tasks until the job is done. You don't get to take a break by checking your email. You don't get to just quickly respond to a text. You stay in the fire. You do the work that scares you first, or you don't get to do any work at all. Picture this. It's 9 a.m. on a Tuesday. Normally, you'd be sitting there, coffee in hand, scrolling through LinkedIn, feeling like you are networking, while your real goal, writing that proposal or calling that investor, sits on the back burner. But not today. Today, you're using the kill switch. Your phone is in another room. Your browser has 1 tab open. Just one, your heart is racing because you're about to do the thing you've been avoiding for 3 months. You feel that resistance. You feel that urge to go wash the dishes or check the news. But you stay seated. You lean into the tension. You start the work for 90 minutes. You are a ghost to the world. You're not busy, you're effective, you're not working, you're winning. By 10:30 a.m., you've done more to advance your life than you used to do in an entire month. You look at that completed task and you realize that the monster wasn't as big as you thought it was. You realize that you've been running from a ghost. When you start living like this, you undergo an identity shift that the average person can't even comprehend. You stop being a laborer who is defined by how many hours they put in, and you become an architect who is defined by the structures they build. You become someone who isn't impressed by effort, but is obsessed with impact. You become the person who walks into a room and people can feel the weight of your focus. You're no longer the busy person who is always stressed and always broke. You are the high performer who is always calm and always profitable. You become a closer, you become a producer, you become a person of value. You start to realize that success isn't about doing more. It's about being more of who you were called to be in the moments that matter most. You shift from a task manager to a result generator. I'm challenging you right now. Not tomorrow, not next Monday, but right now. What is the one thing you've been avoiding while you pretend to be busy? What is the one task that makes your stomach turn? because it's the key to your next level. Go do it. Stop the planning. Stop the preparing. Stop the organizing. Go kill that giant. You don't have time to wait for the perfect conditions. You don't have time to wait until you feel like it. Your bank account is screaming for you to grow up. Your family is waiting for you to step up. Your future self is begging you to show up. You've been busy all day and you're still broke because you haven't been brave enough to be productive. Change that today. Pick up the phone, send the email, write the chapter, close the deal. You owe it to you. You owe it to you. Now get to work. You want the lifestyle of a king, but you're spending your whole day picking up crumbs and calling it a banquet. You're walking around telling everyone you're grinding. You're telling your spouse you're building. But if I looked at your schedule right now, I wouldn't see an empire. I'd see a hobby. You got $1 million vision. You got these massive dreams of changing your family tree. You want to be the one who finally breaks the cycle of poverty. Yet you're operating on a minimum wage schedule and you're wondering why the math ain't adding up. You think you're stuck because the world is unfair. You think you're stuck because you don't have the right connections, but you don't not yet. The truth is much uglier than that. The truth is that you are majoring in minor things. You are putting a Ferrari engine into a lawnmower and wondering why you aren't winning the Grand Prix. You're spending your best energy on things that don't move the needle, and you're giving the leftovers of your soul to the things that actually matter. You want the finish line, but you're obsessed with the shoelaces. You want the victory, but you're distracted by the grass on the field. Stop lying to yourself. You're the reason your dream is delayed. You're the reason your breakthrough hasn't happened yet because you're playing small while pretending to be big. I remember a time back in Huntsville, sitting in a tiny office with a desk I found on the curb, and I was sweating. I was working 14 hours a day. I was exhausted, and I was frustrated because my influence wasn't growing, and my bank account was bone dry. I sat there for 3 hours one afternoon, obsessing over the color of a flyer. I was changing the hex codes. I was moving the text 2 millimeters to the left, then 2 millimeters to the right, thinking that if I just got the brand right, the world would come knocking. I felt like I was working. I felt like I was being an entrepreneur. But then I looked in the mirror and I had to get real. I wasn't an entrepreneur. I was a decorator. I was hiding behind that flyer because I was terrified of picking up the phone and asking a principal to let me speak to his students. I was organizing my contact list for the 5th time that week instead of actually contacting the people on the list. I was doing the safe stuff, so I didn't have to do the scary stuff. I was majoring in the minors because the majors required a version of me I wasn't ready to be yet. I was choosing the comfort of the busy work to avoid the confrontation of the big work. You're doing the exact same thing right now. You're polishing the brass on a ship that hasn't even left the dock. You're obsessed with the details that don't pay. And you're ignoring the demands that do stop, lying to yourself. You are hiding in plain sight. You tell yourself you're preparing, but you're really just procrastinating with a more professional sounding name. You spend 4 hours on a website that has 0 traffic. You spend all morning responding to urgent emails from people who aren't even your customers. You're researching your competitors when you should be creating your own lane. You want the result, but you run from the risk. You want the income, but you're allergic to the impact. You're spending $100 of energy on a 10-cent task. Look at your life. You're the person who cleans the whole house before they start their business. You're the person who needs the perfect office setup before you can write the first page. You're the person who spends more time on the About Me section of your profile than you do on the service you provide to the world. You're majoring in the minors, you're majoring in the minors, you're majoring in the minors, and as long as you keep doing that, you will remain exactly where you are, frustrated, tired, and broke. There's a psychological mechanism at play here called cognitive ease, and it is a silent killer of dreams. Your brain is a survival machine, not a success machine. And it is hardwired to seek out the path of least resistance to conserve energy. When you face a major task, something that requires deep thought, high risk, or potential rejection, your brain experiences cognitive strain. It feels like physical pain. So what does your brain do? It looks for an escape. It says, hey, let's go check the social media metrics, or let's go reorganize the filing cabinet. These minor tasks provide cognitive ease. They give you a little shot of dopamine because you finished something, but that dopamine is a lie. It's a counterfeit success. You're tricking your nervous system into thinking you're winning while your actual life is losing. You're choosing the ease of the moment over the equity of the future. You're choosing the safety of the small over the significance of the great. You want the crown, but you're addicted to the comfort. You want the harvest, but you're scared of the hoe. I'm giving you a tool right now to snap you out of this trance, and I want you to use it with no mercy. It's called the Dollar-Per-Hour Audit. From this moment forward, I want you to look at every single action you take and ask yourself one question. If I were the CEO of a billion-dollar company, would I pay someone $50 an hour to give them $1 million? If you're changing colors on a PowerPoint for 3 hours, the answer is no. If you're arguing with someone in the comment section, the answer is no. If you're perfecting a logo that doesn't have a product behind it, the answer is no. If the task wouldn't return 10 times its cost in revenue, you are officially forbidden from doing it during your peak hours. You have to stop doing $20 and hard work if you want to live a $10,000 and her life. You have to fire yourself from the minor tasks so you can hire yourself for the major ones. Imagine it's 10 a.m. on a Wednesday morning. You're sitting at your desk and that familiar urge hits you. That urge to go check something, to fix something small, to do that little task that doesn't really matter but feels productive. In the past, you give in. You spend the next 2 hours lost in the weeds of the minors. But today you catch yourself. You ask the question, is this $20 work or $2,000 work? You realize it's $20 work. You stop. You literally pull your hands away from the keyboard. You take a breath and you force your focus back onto the one thing that actually generates income, the one thing that actually builds the business, the one thing you've been avoiding because it's hard. You pick up the phone, you start the difficult draft, you engage in the mojo work while the rest of the world is drowning in the minors. You feel the strain, you feel the heat, but you stay there. You stay there until the high value work is done. When you start living this way, you undergo an identity shift that will change the way you walk and the way you talk. You move from being a task manager to being a closer. A task manager is someone who is happy because their list is short. A closer is someone who is happy because their impact is deep. You become the person who understands that success isn't about how much you do, but about the value of what you get done. You start to see yourself as an investor of time, not just a spender of time. You become someone who is respected for your results, not just your effort. You're no longer the busy person who never has anything to show for it. You are the impact person who makes every second count. You start to value your genius more than your activity. You become the architect of your own destiny instead of the janitor of your own distractions. I'm calling you out today. No more excuses. No more hiding behind details. No more perfecting your way into poverty. You've been majoring in the minors for far too long, and it's time to graduate. Your family can't eat your effort. Your kids can't go to college on your intentions. The world doesn't care how many emails you sent if you never delivered the solution. You have been given a gift. You have been given a purpose, and you are insulting that purpose by spending it on minors. Stop the small talk. Stop the small walk. Stop the small work. You owe it to you to be great. You owe it to you. You owe it to you. Now go do the work that pays. Go do the work that stays. Go do the major work. Get after it. You are leaking greatness every single second because you are trying to be a savior for everyone except yourself. You wake up and the first thing you do is invite the entire world into your bedroom. You check the notifications. You scroll the emails. You answer the quick question from a friend who's always in a crisis. And you wonder why by noon you feel like you've been hit by a freight train. You're exhausted. You're drained. And your vision is blurry because you've got 50 tabs open in your brain and not one of them is about your purpose. You think you're stuck because you don't have enough hours in the day. You don't, not yet. You're stuck because you've turned your life into a public utility where everyone gets to plug in for free while your own house is sitting in the dark. You want the championship, but you're spending your practice time carrying everyone else's water. You want the freedom, but you're addicted to the validation of being the go-to person for people who aren't even going anywhere. Stop lying to yourself. You're the reason your dream is delayed. You're the reason you're still broke because you're a yes. Man to the world and a no. Man to your own destiny. I remember being in a house in North Carolina. The sun hadn't even come up, and I was sitting at a small wooden table with my head in my hands, feeling like my skull was about to split open from the sheer weight of everyone else's expectations. My phone was buzzing every 30 seconds. It was a text about a broken water heater from a family member. It was an urgent email about a project that wasn't mine to lead. It was can you just look at this message from a colleague? And I felt like I was being pulled apart by wild horses. I was trying to write my first book. I was trying to build a ministry. I was trying to change the world. But I was too busy being a concierge for everyone else's emergencies. I realized in that moment that I wasn't being helpful. I was being a coward. I was using other people's problems as a shield to protect me from the terrifying responsibility of my own success. I was so busy putting out other people's fires that I let my own torch go cold. I was on call for everyone else, but I was off for my own future. You're in that same house right now. You're drowning in the shallow end because you refuse to stop swimming in other people's pools. Stop lying to yourself. You aren't being kind. You're being weak. You're a people pleaser masquerading as a hard worker because it feels better to be needed than it does to be successful. You'd rather have people like you for being reliable than have them respect you for being prosperous. You're answering texts while you should be building your empire. You're taking phone calls from energy vampires while you should be sharpening your craft. You are sacrificing your family's future on the altar of someone else's convenience. You want the result, but you run from the boundary. You want the peace, but you're allergic to the no. You're letting people who have no skin in the game dictate the play, call of your life. You're leaking energy. You're leaking focus. You're leaking your very soul into things that don't belong to you. You owe it to you to stop this. You owe it to you. You owe it to you. Listen to the science, because your brain is paying a tax you can't afford. There is a psychological mechanism called attention residue, and it's the reason you're busy all day but still broke. Every time you switch your focus from your deep work, the work that actually makes you money, to answer a quick text or an urgent email, a piece of your brain stays stuck on that interruption. You think you've switched back to your task, but you haven't. Your IQ drops by 10 points. Your creativity vanishes, and your cognitive energy is fractured into a million pieces. You aren't multitasking. You're self-sabotaging. You're trying to run a marathon with a 1,000-pound weight tied to your ankles because every open tab in your brain is sucking the power away from your primary objective. You're choosing the clutter of the crowd over the clarity of the king. You want the harvest, but you're letting everyone else's weeds grow in your garden. I'm giving you a tool today that is going to be the bunker hour. And you better have the spine to implement it, or you might as well give up on your dream right now. From this moment forward, the first 90 minutes of your working day are a no-fly zone. Your phone goes in a drawer in another room, not face down, not on silent, but gone. Your Wi-Fi gets disconnected unless the specific task you are working on requires it. You are in a bunker. You are in an isolation tank. You do not check the news. You do not check the weather. And you sure as heck do not check your notifications. If the world didn't end while you were sleeping, it won't end while you're building. You give yourself 90 minutes of pure, unadulterated, focused violence on your number one goal. No interruptions, no checking in, no quick favors. You guard that time like your life depends on it, because your life, the life you want, actually does. I want you to see this scene clearly. It's 8 a.m. on a Monday. Your phone is in the kitchen drawer. You are in your chair. The room is quiet. Your brain starts to itch. It's begging for a distraction. It wants you to check the email. It wants you to see if so, and so reply. But you don't budge. You stay in the bunker. You feel the silence. And for the first time in years, you actually hear your own ideas. You start writing, or you start coding, or you start strategizing with a level of power you haven't felt since you were a kid. You're not reacting, you're creating, you're not answering, you're leading. By the time 9:30 a.m. hits and you open that drawer to check your phone, you see 15 missed calls and 30 texts. And guess what? The world is still spinning. Nobody died, but you've already won the day. You put more brick and mortar onto your empire in 90 minutes than most people do in a week of busy work. When you start living like this, you undergo an identity shift that will make you unrecognizable to the people who used to use you. You move from being a server who waits on the world to a commander who dictates his own terms. You stop being a helper and you become a producer. You start to realize that your time isn't a free for all, it's a premium currency. And you're the only one with the keys to the vault. You become the person who is respected, not because you're available, but because you're effective. You shift from being a spectator in everyone else's drama to being the director of your own destiny. You become someone who values their focus more than their popularity. You start to carry yourself with a different kind of authority because you know that your energy is being directed toward the throne, not toward the trash. You're no longer a victim of the open tab. You are the master of the mission. I'm challenging you right now to close the tabs, close the emails, close the quick favors, close the door on everyone who wants your time but doesn't respect your target. You've been busy all day because you've been everyone's assistant, and you're still broke because you haven't been your own CEO. Stop trying to save the world before you've saved yourself. Your family is waiting for you to win. Your legacy is waiting for you to focus. The world doesn't need another nice person who never reaches their potential. It needs a champion who had the guts to say no to the good so they can say yes to the great. Build the bunker, guard the gate, kill the distractions. You owe it to you, you owe it to you. You owe it to you. Now go get your life back.